Interlude of Magic. Magic watched Jaden cast a beam of energy, followed by several fireballs, which turned into balls of water seconds before they hit the ground. As they expected, the human was making progress faster than what an ordinary person would. Magic smiled. This was good. The progress the human was making was as they expected. That little quirk of his was indeed proving to be extremely useful. It was time they began his next lesson. "All right," Magic said, suddenly behind Jaden. The mortal jumped, and Magic received a blast of fire to their face. Jaden stared at Magic, eyes wide in shock and horror. I am so sorry. Are you okay?" Jaden said, a hand covering his mouth, a practiced motion. Unfazed, Magic pressed on. "Yeah, time for your next lesson." Jaden didn't respond as he continued to stare at Magic. "Okay, what's wrong?" Magic asked. Jaden circled a finger around Magic's body. You're on fire." "That would seem to be the case, yes." "Are you okay?" Jaden practically demanded. "Yeah, why wouldn't I be?" Magic said, showing mercy to the anxious human. Magic willed the fires to cease. "Better?" Jaden nodded in response. "Good. It's now time for you to learn actual battle magics." "So that blast of fire doesn't count?" "Well, technically speaking, no, but it doesn't matter," Magic said, shaking their head. "Whatever. Battle magic. Battle magic or combat magic is magic designed specifically for combative purposes." "I would have never guessed," Jaden said dryly. "Look, I wasn't the one who came up with these classifications. I left that to you mortals. Honestly, one of the biggest mistakes in my existence. But whatever." Magic clapped their hands together. "Battle magics are a..." Magic trailed off, making circles with her hand before sighing. "Christ. Battle magics are a collective subset of other magics and some specific magics. Yeah, I'm not going to go off of actual magic theory anymore. Okay, battle magics are a variety of spells created for combat, obviously. Broadly speaking, there are 3 kinds of battle magics: melee or physical spells, ranged spells, and enhancements. Melee spells are self-explanatory. Enhancements refer to any form of curse, boon, or other form of enchantment. Ranged spells are obviously ranged attacks. They fall into 2 categories: strike and assault. What's the difference between strike and assault? I was getting to that. Strike spells are often classified by being single striking spells. Often these spells are very mana heavy, but they are extremely destructive. The opposite of strike spells are assault spells. Assault spells are classified as being multi-hitting spells that are relatively low-costing spells. However, they tend to be weaker in terms of actual damage. But right now, we should start with you creating weaponry and figuring out your preferred weapon. But I already have a weapon. Jaden started to speak, but was cut off by Magic flicking his forehead. "No, that's the alien's weapon, not yours." Magic crossed their arms. Electric blue eyes bored down at Jaden, daring the mortal to challenge the statements. But just like every mortal that has come before and after him, Jaden thought he knew best. "But I am the alien. So what's the difference?" Jaden's words were harsher than what he intended, but he wasn't apologizing. "On the surface, none, except when it truly matters. The alien part of you is only a small part of who you are. You're human. Your human side is the greater part that makes you, you." Internally, Jaden scoffed at that notion. "You know what? On the topic of aliens, hand over the corrupted core." "What? Why?" Jaden said, grabbing at his chest. The mood swings and overall more aggressive behavior is making teaching you more difficult than what it needs to be. We can deal with the corrupted core when you are more magically experienced and more mentally prepared. Trust me, Jaden. Jaden chewed his lip. Magic was most certainly correct. The voices might be quieter, but they weren't the only side effect of the core. Fine, Jaden said, pulling the core from his chest and tossing it to Magic. God caught the core effortlessly and put it in their pocket. Good. We'll start with a simple conjuring, Magic said, slowly waving their hands. A light blue mist emanated from their hand before solidifying into a sword. Espada, Jaden mentally noted. Magic grabbed the weapon and turned it upside down before dropping it into the ground. Creation magic, also known as construct magic or conjuring magic, is the magic of making things, Magic said, gesturing to the sword that they made. Try it. Jaden frowned, but tried it anyways. The mortal held up a hand and slowly waved it in the same way Magic did. A cyan-colored mist flowed from his hands. And now to solidify it... Wait! Magic shouted, breaking the mortal's concentration and causing the mist to vanish. Before Jaden could ask a question, Magic was already moving. They held up a blindfolds. What's this for? Jaden asked. I need you to know what your preferred weapon is. Oh. Okay, but that doesn't answer why I need the blindfolds. You need it so you can feel it out. You don't have the ability to influence your creation if you don't know what you're making. Magic drifted around Jaden and started to put the blindfold on the mortal. Just relax and feel out the weapon you're most comfortable with, Magic said, tying a knot. Jaden sensed Magic's presence vanish and took that as the cue to start. Jaden held up both hands. What did he want? He should probably start with deciding on a one-handed weapon or a two-handed weapon. Two-handed weapons tend to give more power, but one-handed weapons meant a person could use an offhand weapon or a shield. Why was this so difficult? Did Magic specify that he had to choose only one weapon? Jaden's lips turned up. He'll start with a two-handed weapon. Spears, polearms, poleaxes, and halberds were, historically, often the best two-handed weapons that existed. Jaden pressed his hands together, and then threw them outward. Jaden tried to envision some kind of blade, but he struggled to do so. Magic's words about not forcing the design of the weapon echoed in the mortal's mind. Jaden dropped his expected design and decided to let his hands guide him. Slowly he shaped the weapon to its preference until he felt that he was finished. Now he just had to solidify it. Jaden held a hand over his creation and willed it to become solid. There was a dull thunk as Jaden's creation fell onto the ground. The mortal lifted the blindfold from his eyes to see a staff on the ground. It was a simple-looking black bow staff. The ends of the staff tapered inward to form points. Jaden picked up the staff and swung it around gently. It was perfectly weighted. He pressed a finger to one of the points and quickly pulled it back, hissing in pain. It was much sharper than he expected. Jaden stabbed the staff into the ground and let it go. But just like he half expected, the staff fell to the ground with a soft thump. Jaden pulled the blindfold back over his eyes and went to make a second weapon. He waved a hand and prepared to create another weapon when he sensed something oppressive. He hoped that whatever he made would be good enough, as he didn't have time to refine whatever design it was going to be. As Jaden willed the weapon into being, the mortal grabbed the hilt of the weapon and threw it at the thing he sensed. Guess I won't have too much difficulty in training you, Jaden. Magic's voice came from behind. Jaden quickly pulled off his blindfolds. I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry, Jaden said, turning to face Magic. Jaden saw a sword floating in front of Magic's face. Correction, you didn't mean to throw a sword at me. Magic's voice had a light reprimand, but they lightened it up with a smile. Nice aim, by the way. Would have pierced my head if I hadn't stopped it. Magic lightly flicked the sword's blade and let it rotate up so they could see the full weapon. It was a single-edged sword that was straight, slowly curving up into its edge, reminiscent of the designs of some falchions. It had a hilt on the side of the blade that curved up like a crescent moon. Kinda looks like gold's, Magic said, as they noted the cyan tint to the weapon. Internally, they were impressed by the fact that the mortal was able to turn a partial construct into a complete construct on a dime. Magic tilted their head to look at the bow staff that was on the ground in front of Jaden. Oh good, you went for the staff. Jaden's eyes widened as if he did something wrong. Magic could laugh. You didn't say I could only make one weapon, Jaden said, trying to explain his actions. Magic let out a huff of laughter. I did not, they said with a smile. Now, I should probably teach you how to engage in magical combat. I thought I was going to learn battle magic, Jaden said, picking up the bow staff. Magic waved off Jaden's comment. This'll be quick, they said, floating to the ground. Idly, they spun Jaden's sword around as they started to pace back and forth. Magical combat is a rather straightforward and simple thing to learn. The first rule of combat is, your internal magic is your secondary resource. You will primarily rely on the ambient magic that will surround you, once the initial spells of combat have been cast. The second rule is, never be the first person to cast. In a magic-based fight, deception and knowledge are your two greatest assets. Your knowledge of what your opponent can and cannot do will be helpful. However, knowledge can be used against you. If you show off too many spells, your opponent will be able to discern what you can and cannot do. The third rule is to never teleport. Unless you have no other option and need to reorient yourself, or you need to get into a better defensive position, you should never teleport. Teleportation will leave you more vulnerable than you realize. Any half-decent mage will most certainly have the ability to smell and detect mana, and teleportation will leave a trail of mana that will lead to whatever destination you decide. Magic paused and impaled Jaden's sword into the ground. And on that note, I'll have to teach you both skills. Didn't you just say that I should never teleport? Jaden said. Yeah, but it's still an obnoxiously powerful spell that even the weakest mages learn, Magic said. Now, where was I? Ah, right. Rule 4. Keep your defenses up. Literally. Magical shields and barriers will be your best friend. Relatively low cost and extremely versatile protective spells. Finally, the 5th rule. Unless it's a simple spar, always go for the kill. Unless your opponent yields, or as I previously stated, a sparring match, you will have to kill. Mages are extremely dangerous. And if the saying of never turning your back on your opponent holds any merit, then you should never let an opposing mage live, much less turn your back to them unless you can confirm they are dead. Jaden chewed his lip. So, I have to kill people? Yep, Magic chirped, sounding much chipper than before. Well, only mages that try to kill you first. Actual magical fights are typically to the death, so it's either you or them. Personally, I'd prefer it if you lived rather than some schmo. Jaden sat down at that information. Don't worry, we'll practice dueling each other so you can get a better grasp on the entire magical combat thing, Magic said, offering a hand for Jaden to take. The mortal stared at it for a moment before grabbing it and letting himself be pulled up. So, what am I starting with? Fighting, smelling mana, or teleporting? Jaden asked. We'll start with teleportation and practice fighting, while teaching you how to detect mana, Magic said, as they held their hand out to Jaden. Give me your staff. they said. Jaden frowned, but complied, handing his staff over to Magic. Magic regarded both weapons for a moment before throwing them behind their head, with more than enough force to make both weapons vanish into the horizon. Jaden watched in disbelief. "Why did you do that?" Jaden said, expecting a rational answer from Magic. "'Cause you don't need them," Magic said dismissively. "Besides, if you need them, you can just conjure up a new weapon." "But you didn't need to throw them," Jaden said incredulously. "You're right. I didn't need to, but I wanted to. Isn't that what you humans do?" Magic said. Jaden had a look of visible confusion, but decided he wasn't going to press the matter. Now, teleportation is pretty simple. So you start at one point, Magic said, lifting a finger. Then you just... Magic's voice cut off as they teleported from Jaden's right to his left instantly. "That didn't help," Jaden said dryly. Magic frowned at the mortal's statement and let out a quick hum. "I see," they muttered to themselves. "Does he need to say it a second time? No, it shouldn't work like that. Maybe teleportation is different somehow? No, that makes even less sense. Maybe I just moved too fast. Or maybe you just didn't explain it to me," Jaden said, cutting off Magic's mutterings. Magic jolted, their heads snapped towards Jaden. "If that's what you believe, you should listen to yourself more often," Magic said, rather cryptically. "Teleportation is a movement spell. Movement spells are, as their name says, spells that have to do with moving. Typically, this is in regards to moving oneself, another person, or moving items. Teleportation is like moving from one point to another, just extremely quickly. So, like running really fast. Not quite, but you can think of it like that. In terms of the mechanics of it, teleportation warps space around you to bring you to your desired location. All you really need is an image of the desired location or person you wish to teleport to, and you just will yourself over. Now, there are ways to modify your transport, but right now we'll just focus on the basic instant teleportation. Now then, do you remember what I told you? Yeah? Good. Now focus. I need you to pay attention to what I'm going to do," Magic said. Jaden nodded and intently stared at Magic. Magic vanished, then seconds later reappeared, about a football field away from Jaden. The back of Jaden's mind tingled as he observed Magic teleport. So all he had to do was just will himself over to Magic. And it's not like running. Jaden closed his eyes and took a step forward, imagining he was next to Magic. For a brief moment, he felt light, airy almost, before returning to normal. The mortal peeked an eye open and saw Magic in the corner of his eye. "I needed to get it quickly," Magic said with a smile. "That was easier than what I expected." "Of course it was," Magic said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "You were paying attention." Jaden frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Exactly as I said. Now you're going to learn how to smell mana," Magic said, holding up a hand. They snapped their fingers, and a flame lit up above their fingers. "Whenever you cast a spell, you use mana. Mana can come either from yourself, someone else, or the environment. Well, assuming there's enough mana available in the area." Magic lifted their hand to Jaden. "Smell," they said. Jaden leant forward and did what Magic asked and smelt the flame. "What exactly should I smell?" Jaden asked, when he couldn't smell anything. "Me," Magic said. "Or rather, the magic I'm using." Jaden tried again, smelling the flame. There wasn't even smoke he could smell. Clean burning. That's what Magic said mana would do when ignited. He got closer to the flame and tried to smell anything. All he could really pick up was the faint smell of clean air and something else that made him think of the color blue. But that's what he normally smelt in this place. There was a chance that it was stronger by the fire, but that could easily just be in his mind. I still can't smell anything from the fire, Jaden finally said, leaning away from the fire. Is that so? Then what have you been smelling? Magic asked. I don't know, just what I normally smell, Jaden said. Magic's lips curled into a smile, and they made a go-on gesture with her hand. Clean air and something that smells blue. Glad to know I smell like clean air and blue, Magic said, before extinguishing the flame. Jaina mentally processed what Magic meant. So, smelling magic is just smelling you? And this place is filled with magic, Jaina said. Magic winced and sucked in a breath through their teeth, yet they somehow still kept their smile. Close on both parts. This place isn't filled with magic, it is magic. From the air to the ground, it is me, and I am it. As for the scent of magic, the actual scent you'll get is dependent on the user. So, how am I going to smell other people's mana? I doubt they're going to let me in a fight. What do you use when you cast a spell? Mana? And when you use said mana for a spell, what do you think happens to it? I don't know. It just goes away. Nope. For you mortals, energy and matter cannot be created or destroyed. They can only be converted into different forms. So the mana doesn't just go away. Magic said. Her tone indicated that they wanted Jaden to answer for himself. Great. Jaden was going to have to think through this. Matter and energy cannot be created or destroyed, only turned into different forms. Casting spells require the use of mana, and they are, to some extent, made of mana. And smelling magic is really just smelling mana. Like a puzzle being put together, Jaden's mind figured out the question. So, when a spell is cast, the mana used becomes part of the spell, so I just have to smell whatever spell is used? Correct. Well, you got the most important parts correct. You're actually going to smell the magical residue, and that stems from any spell that's in use, being used, or has been used. It'll be something you get better at, like sensing magic. I think you're ready for some practice now, Magic said, floating to the ground about a yard away from Jaden. When they touched the ground, Jaden shuddered as he felt some kind of wave go through him. Magic moved their arms out a little, as two electric blue swords were slowly conjured into their hands. This type of construct is known as a partial construct. They function just like complete constructs. However, they require more concentration. But if they were to break or get lost, you could easily mend it or make it faster than a complete construct. Magic spoke without their normal inflection. Jaden shifted a foot back and activated his magic, mentally prepared to conjure his staff, as well as ready to make a partial construct. So, do you want me to make one? Jaden called out. He felt his body start to tense up, and his heart started to pick up pace in his chest. If you wish, I was planning to start on your magical combat training right now. Magic still spoke without much of their usual tone. Yeah, that sounds good. So how are you going to train me? Jaden asked, his adrenaline continuing to rise. I think that the best way to train you would be for you to do and use everything you know how to. From there, we'll improve the things you're good at and help the things you are not good at. Magic said. Their voice was slightly lighter than before. In order for me to know the full extent of what needs to be done, we will fight to the death, Magic said. They spun their weapons and got into an attacking stance. You're joking, right? Jaden said. Magic's response was to propel themselves forward, closing the distance between them and Jaden nightmarishly fast. Jaden quickly conjured his staff, blocking Magic's weapons. Magic was seriously trying to kill him. Magic shifted their position and pushed off of Jaden's staff, making them both completely open. Magic lifted a leg and hit Jaden with a magically amped kick. Jaden flew back, hitting his back and rolling several times before stopping. Jaden quickly stood and caught his breath. His staff was no longer in his hands. He quickly reconjured his weapon, but this time he kept it as a partial construct. You will fight me, Jaden, son of Xander. Fight for your own survival. Show me the power of the being possessing humanity, divinity, and extraterrestrial power can do when threatened. Rule 1! Magic called out. What was that again? Right, use ambient magic. How was he supposed to do that again? Magic stabbed their swords into the ground. Now drink! Magic shouted, swinging their swords up. Massive blades of sand rolled at Jaden. Jaden's mind flashed back to when Magic had Jaden draw from the corrupted core. Jaden choked up on his staff and dropped one end to the ground. He quickly called upon the magic in the surrounding area, and quickly flicked his staff up, creating a wall of earth to protect himself. The sand blades collided with Jaden's wall, and even though the wall stopped the blades, the sand blades still broke the wall where they hit. Jaden leapt away from where his wall crumbled. He spun his staff and jutted his arms out towards the remaining portion of the wall. Jaden's wall fell forward towards Magic. Magic smirked, and with ease threw one of their swords into the wall. Magic snapped their fingers, and the sword blew up. The explosion decimated the rest of Jaden's wall, leaving only small fragments flying. Jaden quickly conjured up another wall, this time smaller, and curved in towards him. He took cover behind the wall, as the shrapnel that was formerly his wall shot itself into his new protection. Meanwhile, Magic slowly advanced forward, uncaring of the rocks flying around. When the rocks stopped flying, Jaden quickly left his shield. He slammed one end of his staff into the wall, and sent it flying forward towards Magic. The wall shot forward and tipped forward, rolling onto the ground and breaking apart into several large rocks, still headed towards Magic. Magic stared at the flying rocks. Jaden held up his staff, and when the rocks got close to Magic, he slammed the end of his staff in the ground, causing all the rocks to explode. For a mere fraction of a second, Jaden saw a flash of blue. When the smoke cleared up, Jaden saw Magic with an electric blue barrier around them, unscathed. They were missing a sword, Jaden noted. The barrier around Magic faded away, and they started to walk forward. Magic flicked their sword out, then up. Jaden's hair started to rise, and the smell of ozone permeated the air. The air turned cold as Jaden's eyes widened in realization, as he quickly slammed his staff into the ground, creating a barrier just like Magic's, just as a bolt of lightning hammered down on him. The air quickly warmed back up as Jaden grunted at the force of the lightning hitting his barrier. Jaden dropped the barrier and noticed Magic staring at him, before tilting their head. Curiosity. Why would they be curious about him? Are they acting on Jaden's level? No, that wouldn't make sense. Jaden didn't have an opportunity to think about Magic's actions. As Magic started to run forward, they extended their sword away from their body, and then their body shifted to look like a liquid shadow as they zigzagged towards Jaden, closing the distance between the two in mere seconds. When Magic got close enough, their body shifted back to normal. Their sword was raised, prepared to make another strike. Jaden embraced his staff with both hands and used it to block Magic's hit. This strike pushed Jaden back and sent him to his knees. It also broke his staff into two. Jaden held up the broken ends of his staff like they were some kind of piercing weapon, before discarding one of the broken ends when he remembered that he's been on the defensive the entire time. Jaden reformed his staff and flicked his hand, causing the ground below Magic to shift back, creating some much-needed distance between the two. Magic fell to the ground as the ground was swept out from beneath them as they were pushed back. Magic rose from the ground and smiled, and Jaden felt his stomach lurch as he felt another wave of something more intense than before. There was a sudden rumble from where Magic was, as they vanished, moving faster than what Jaden could keep up with. By the time Jaden was able to register Magic again, they were less than a foot away from him, sword out and ready to cut him down. Jaden was barely able to form a barrier to protect himself. However, it proved to be useless, as Magic swung their sword, shattering the barrier like glass, throwing Jaden off balance and sending shards of energy flying around him. Jaden desperately sent a spike of earth towards Magic. With little effort, Magic slashed up and broke the spike. Jaden felt a rush of wind as Magic showed up in his peripheral. "Fail," was the last thing Jaden heard Magic say, before he felt the sensation of Magic's sword going through his neck. Jaden sat up sharply, gasping for air. His hand immediately went to his neck, feeling it was completely mended. "You lasted longer than what I expected," Magic said from behind Jaden. Jaden whipped around to face Magic, who was sitting in the air, fidgeting with one of the strips of their hoodie. 2 minutes and 3 seconds. "You killed me!" Jaden said incredulously. Magic looked unfazed. "I said we would fight to the death," Magic said, staring at Jaden with a vacant look. "I expected the lightning to get you, but it would seem you're a fast learner when motivated. It's quite obvious you're still getting used to using magic and fighting. Something we'll work on, and you'll get better at with time. Your innate combat ability is... well, it shows your heritage." "Is that a good thing?" "It's whatever you decide. Are you tired?" Magic asked. Jaden thought about it. Mentally, he was a bit drained, and from the first time using magic in combat, he was a bit physically worn out as well. "I guess I'm a bit worn out," Jaden said. Magic nodded, and the sky started to darken, revealing the many multiverses and broken universes that littered the sky. "You should rest then," Magic said, placing their feet on the ground. "I'll teach you more magic and things you should know. We'll also work on your temporal abilities so they're not so finicky." "Wait, my what?" Jaden asked, but he got no response, as Magic was already gone. Jaden sighed and shook his head, sitting on the ground. Instead of the sand, Jaden felt a sleeping bag underneath him. Jaden lied back and closed his eyes, allowing sleep to take him.